Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back. So, this is the third day after I was sick, and today we're doing back in Delts, 80%, I believe, 5 sets of 5. So, first we start off with overhead press, and again, as I mentioned earlier in the last previous videos, that as I'm going deeper into the prep, I've noticed that my strength has been dropping, and especially my push strength. I mean, usually I can go a little bit heavier on these overhead presses, but today, again, after being sick for a while and being in a deficit, just pushing the 135s for 5 sets of 5 were pretty brutal. After the overhead press, we move into the rows, lever row, and again, 80%, we're starting with 5 sets of 5. Again, since I was sick and my body was still a bit aching, and I always regulate a little bit, try not to wear myself out. And I start off with 225 for warm up. And here, as you can see, I'm still making sure I just get the nice stretch, contraction, making sure I'm working out the muscles and not just swinging it. Alright, so this is the fourth set. Here I am going in, making sure you drive the elbows up, squeeze your lats and your back, and go down for a nice stretch and come back up. And for these movements, they're nice because I actually like them more than the bent over rows, because I tend to kind of swing a lot, especially when you rack up the weights, and that happens to me a lot. And I did pendulum rows back then, and that also it just left a little straining pain on my lower back, and I really like it. Afterwards, we move into lat pull downs, and for these we did 3 sets. And any lat movement, you want to make sure you're not like gripping the bar with the forearms. You want to just like hook it, make sure it's stationary. And a lot of times, even myself back then, I would kind of pull down with using the biceps and forearms. And therefore, like whenever you feel your forearms or your bicep pump doing this movement, that means you're using too much arm and too much forearm. Just make sure you're hooking on your hands and you're flaring out your lats. That way, when you drive down with your elbows and really just focus on the squeeze and the contraction when you're going up. Make sure you get the nice full stretch all the way to the top and bring it down. And when you do these right, even with lighter weights, you're going to feel like a nice pump on your lats. Alright, so here's the last set, doing the pronated grip. And again, these are one of my favorite lat movements for development of my just the wing lat spread. And I keep it very basic, very simple. My coach has me doing them, so nothing crazy. Very simple movements, effective, and that's what you want. You don't want to overthink things too much, because a lot of times when people try to be fancy, they try to add in some special movements. They tend to throw a lot. Either their form breaks down or they get injury. And now we're doing the reverse grip, and these again are pretty much the same movement. However, you're pulling down closer and you're working more of the lower lats, as you can see. And you could do these with the wide bar, or you can do. I kind of switch it up from time to time with like a close grip V bar, so that way it mimics the same movement, the same handle. And again, these are one of my favorite lat movement exercises. Alright, after those, we move into the supersets. And here I do 3 sets of these superset movements. First I start off with high rolls. And again, at the gym that I go to, we don't have any of the hammer strength high rolls. So I told my coach, and he kind of showed me these. And it mimics the same movement. And I actually like it pretty well. Again, you're pulling a lot on the lats. As you can see, my lats are really stretching. You just want to keep focusing on the squeeze and contractions. Next, we move on to the behind the head military press. And I haven't done these in a long time, because when I first started these, I actually almost like really hurt myself, and I'll never forget the guy that saved my life. And so basically, I go as heavy as I can. Well, I can go a little bit heavier, but this is much more of a comfortable weight for me to hit my rep range. And again, you go down nice and slow, and just make sure you're working the muscle that you're targeting. And by the time I get to these, I'm usually pretty exhausted and pretty much toast. So I always have either Meggy or someone else to just stand behind me just in case, because you never know what can happen, right? Because sometimes you might just get exhausted and miss that last rep. Here is set two, and again with these, you got to really make sure you're really focusing your mind muscle connection, because it's very easy to pull with your biceps for this movement. So especially when you're extending to the top, you want to make sure that you feel the nice lats pulling, and then when you pull back, you want to connect your mind with your lat muscle. You want to make sure you're pulling with that lat muscle and continue having that nice squeeze with the lats, and make sure you're working it. And as we move on to set two for the military press, you're gonna start seeing me fatiguing, because I'm really focusing on the squeeze. And again, with these, I'm not trying to climb crazy numbers. I'm just making sure I'm working out my delts, making sure I'm hitting the muscles that I want to hit. And again, I go nice and control. You see, I'm not jerking it up. Just making sure you're working it. As you can see, my shoulders are really, really feeling the burn right here as I'm going down slow and going up for the full extension. And again, just I advise people when they do these, just make sure you have somebody standing behind you. Even if you think it's lightweight, you would want that person to spot you, because you just want to avoid any chance of injuries, and those injuries will set you back for a long time. And I know a lot of guys that tore their rotator cuffs doing them, so just be very careful when you're doing them. And here we're finishing off our last set. As you can see, I'm really focusing on the squeeze. I'm really feeling burnt by the time I get to this. And on my last set of these, it was getting really heavy. I don't even think I got to hit my 10 reps, but I'm working hard enough for my muscles to really, just to really work. Alright, after those, we move into conventional deadlifts. So on my secondary deadlift days, I usually do conventionals. And here I'm warming up with the 225, making sure my hips are nice and warmed up. And this is my first working set for 5 reps. Again, these you have to make sure that your back is nice and tight. And usually when I see a lot of people doing these, they pull back with their arm. So you want to make sure the arm is stationary and you're just using the hip. You want to fire your hip and go for the extension on the back. And a lot of people, they kind of curve and roll their back doing these movements, and they look very, very painful. Every time I see them doing that, I pretty much feel the pain for them. So for these movements, you want to stay tight. I make sure I reset. I make sure everything's just nice and tight to avoid injury. As we move into set three, these are still moving up pretty fast, pretty easy, and I definitely feel my back working at this percentage. And again, I'm pretty surprised how well I did these and how fast I did these, because again, keep in mind, this is after a leg day. This is after me being very sick for days, and I'm still sick. I'm not 100% yet. And it definitely feels a lot better, because the last time I did these, I barely did 225 for like one set of 7s. Overall, it was definitely a great day while I'm still recovering from the flu, and it felt really good to really lift semi to where I left off. And hopefully I'll continue to do so as the prep continues to go deeper. As always, guys, thank you for watching my vlogs, and please like, share, and subscribe.